Oh, good.
So it started, right?
Yeah, it started. Well, actually, it's interesting when you said about the meeting and what can happen in the meeting, because I realized that these days, the days are so scheduled for me that actually there are no, I mean, I maybe see someone passing on a bike, like I think of someone, and today I saw a friend passing by, but they didn't see me, so I just went on. And actually, these days, there are not so many coincidental meetings, or meetings that just happen because I stay at home or I have my time, like the things I have to do. And yeah, and all these events like performances, they don't really, even if they happen, it's really such a limited number of people. And very often people don't hang out anymore. They just go home.
Yeah. Is it? Do you hear a lot the noise behind me, or it's okay?
It's okay. There's a person speaking, but
Yeah. Okay.
it's a meeting.
Yeah, it's a meeting.
Yeah, when you were talking, when you said about the performances, I'm really thinking lately, like, because we are preparing, we are organizing a dance festival, like Festival of Contemporary Dance and Choreography in Ljubljana, and now it's already 10th edition.
Wow.
And it's quite a big effort to somehow create something where the audience can feel sense of belonging or some connection, or so that it's not this kind of consumerist thing, but also that it's not to lose like these ties and so on. So it's quite, we don't even know if it will happen, but if it happens, and depending from where people can travel, today we start getting cancellations, like from Sweden, from so it's quite a big question how what this will create long term, like for people, because you cannot say, for example, we have in some performances you can also have 300 people, 350, depending on what it is and on the interest. And now we have the like the measures are that only 50 people can be. So you know, like, to whom you should say how to do this reverted PR, somehow to know, to let people know that this is happening, to let people know that they are welcome, but also like not too much welcome. Like somehow how to create this, still this sense, you are welcome and we want to be with you, but let's somehow organize ourselves so that maybe you know that you cannot, because many people come every night. Like it's really, if it happens, it's so it's, yeah, I was just thinking what you said, Anna, also in terms of behavior, somehow not only how many people can be, but like you're kissing and hugging everyone in front of Kino Shishka, like there is a very small premiere, and then you enter inside and you're like with the distance, with the mask. So it's like two different kinds of people, like before and during the show. And I think it does affect a lot what we do.
How do you manage? Like, what do you know how you will do to create these? Like,
yeah, for the festival it's the biggest question, because the other things that I work, somehow either they depend on other institutions, so for example theater, so I don't have to deal with it, or if we are also producing or co-producing, it's something very small, like somehow it is really for 30 people or 35 people, because it's this kind of setting. And for the festival, to be honest, I have no idea. Like we left this talk about PR and communication with the audience, like for the very end, when we see in fact what we will be like, what will be possible. But I think maybe we were thinking to create some kind of a game with the audience, something where you can play, so that it's also playful, that it's not only like, we reject you, because nobody wants to be rejected, and then somehow how to still have the feeling, we can play together, and we can, do this kind of how do you call this,
Like a lottery, like a draw.
like lottery or some kind of chance operation or something, so that it's somehow fair, but also that I think we will do something like this, because Ljubljana, where I live, is really like small enough so that you can do that a kind of communication. Yeah, but it's very, very strange. It's very strange because you deal with things that should affect the body, you know. If the audience comes, they should be present as a whole, no? And with this kind of, even if it's a game, even if it's you feel that there is something that really interferes with how the body is in a certain moment. So you cannot pretend when you start watching the show that all these things around didn't happen, or that you, yeah, something like this. But I think I don't want to speak too much because I start to cry about the future of our work. It's very, it's so uncertain. I hope we also start doing something illegal somehow. This is the only way I can imagine that we really start doing something completely against the law or against the, so that we can have some joy,
Like seller performances.
So yeah, something like something. And you too, like what how what is going on in this direction with you?
You want to start, Marina? How is it in the gallery? How do people behave? Oh no, you froze.
Let's all freeze.
For me, it's really an example of this. Oh.
I did freeze.
Hey, you're okay. I hear you now.
Because yeah, it worked perfectly. Like, yeah, I don't. This situation is really a nice example of the general texture of my life and of the situation. It's really busy, and there is a lot of uncertainty right now in France. I'm working with an artist for a show that should start on Sunday, but tomorrow our president will talk and maybe say some other restrictions. So it's really like a lot of energy on something that I feel is really fragile. I don't know how you feel about that, but it does really something to the body and to the even to the imagination. That's I don't know if I could. I would not put a direct value of it. I'm not sure that it's only bad. I mean, but it's quite stressful for me. Also because I just finished I just went out, finished the Beaux-Arts, Fine Arts, Paris Fine Arts School, and it's a time when usually you try to find some residencies and you're trying to find some work to earn a living, which I was also doing before, but there are many possibilities right now, also because of what happens, and at the same time, nothing is certain and nothing's. Yeah, it's really a strange time in France right now. Well, everywhere. How do you have similar sensation, or you feel the situation is different in your context?
First of all, you changed something with the mic, so it's more difficult to hear you.
Oh,
now it's better. Oh, now it's good.
Okay, it's just how maybe I had my hand.
Feel like.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's very interesting because when you were talking Dragana, I really was also now when you were Marina, also like both of you. But when you started Dragana speaking about the shows and everything, and it's very interesting because the COVID came in the moment when I had planned to have a quiet time, so I really was more focused on teaching. So I actually just kind of it was kind of quite interesting, like if the whole world decided to support me in being quiet, because everything became quiet, and I was just at home doing my thing. Just I couldn't do it in a studio. I would teach online, and somehow as the months now develop, in a weird way, I really appreciate being small. You know, I'm not a big institution. I don't work for big theater productions. I'm not dependent on big money, big plans. I'm just, I do the same. I just go to my studio, dig, have another studio, dig, have a research showing, which will have much less people in, but in a way, I don't mind it. So on this, like, it's very interesting that this situation, like, I completely understand and I see on a bigger scale both the tragedy and maybe the necessity to just change the system that was not functioning anymore, the system that was not really, like, I mean, in a way, I don't feel it. I feel the pain and the confusion and the, disorientation of everyone on every level, and yet I have a feeling that there is also such an importance and opportunity to change, in being giving a radical means to change a system and a way of functioning which was dysfunctional, and we all knew it, and just no one knew how to stop it. So in a way, I'm talking also about the arts, because I think for me the arts became a machine that are only focused on production and, producing new work, producing new artists, producing something that is so disconnected from the reality of things in some way, for me, that I don't know, like.
And what about this thing about production? How do you see it in your work? Where do you see? I don't know how you work, and if you like create choreography, or if you see, where do you see yourself in this era of production? And I don't know.
If just to continue, like, for example, I've always been just digging. I see myself more like a digger, like just going to this, if I got the money, I would still be researching or like trying to build things and have a question and understand how to form it. And if I didn't get the money, I would do the same.
Yeah.
So, and I never had money to make a scenography. I never had money to do big, even if there was a big theater involved, it was involving almost no money. So it was always small. So in a way, it's in the means of production, it makes me go back to the basic, which is the question of what's the creativity and how I can be creative or hopeful, or, seeing the potential in things, even if they don't go, or maybe exactly because they don't go the way I expect them to go. Now is the freezing moment. Oh. No,
Yeah,
you're back. No, but let's make a game that each time someone freezes, we freeze too.
It's a good game.
So we just like a pause or like a suspension.
Okay. What you just said made me curious. What are you digging in right now?
I'm digging in a very enigmatic thing, which I called 7. And because I just tried to find the name, I'm actually just digging into the how that's why Dragana, just before you came up, Marine, we were talking, and we were saying, like, we were talking about the that the work with Snezhana, yeah, and how it's so sensitive, and then it's something, but it's still for the public because something arises and it's visible. So for me, this is what I kind of checking, how from a place of being sensitive something arises, and when it becomes visible, and when it becomes understandable, and how can I also make it that it always shimmers, or that it always, when it almost becomes too understandable, that it shifts, you know. But in general, I'm very curious about yeah, so looking back at creation, you know, looking back at how things like really pop up and then they dissolve, and how I can bring back, look back and at all what I've created, but also at my ancestors, and like really just there's something about opening the heart actually in this time, which is so which can so easily make us, you know, go shoulders down and close the chest. But how can I keep my heart open, and how can I take the energy that's available from the past and source it now and open it up? To speak very enigmatically, but this is where I am. And you? Any of you?
Beyond.
No, maybe you can go. Maybe I enjoy so much listening to the two of you. Maybe I just become for some time listener. It's very nice to listen.
What I'm digging right now is not also, it's quite enigmatic for me, but it well, a basic thing is what happens when we start doing something with our hands, and the choice that we make. I feel the beginning was that I felt that it puts ourselves in a really particular way of perceiving our environment. When I start drawing, it's as if, I don't know, there's a complete reconfiguration of how my sense function together. And I started doing that, like playing with movement and this thing of writing, and there was those collective kind of games I would do with that, but I would only do it with people from either who were designers or who were performers. So there was a kind of habit or of an easiness to play with all these things. And what happened with this situation is that I got cut from all the people I used to work with. And when it was possible again to maybe gather, I was actually very curious to find again the collective dimension of this exploration with people from my who were really close around me and that I actually did not know well, and who were not professional of either graphic art or performance. And now I'm really curious about the kind of attention and collective attention these games, I'm sorry it's very vague, but can arise, make my English is also not good. Because I feel there is something really precious there, and I feel we can connect really with no communication with people who are so different from us. And I'm really interested in this generosity that can happen in this context, and I'm also then really curious about the traces that it can generate, and how it can change, opens the way we perceive the way, because it's really about also perceiving through other bodies and through other really different bodies and minds. And so now I'm using this also more maybe as a connector is not the right word, but it's many things at the same time, so that I really don't know any longer what it is. But well, that's what I'm trying right now.
And it's manifested in the form of like, how do you call it, or what is the manifestation of it?
Well, for
Just
now it's games between several people, and it's moment where we can well, it's not a spectacle and it's not an exhibition either, but it's just like meeting people. I feel it's closer to going to the field like an anthropologist would go. I feel it's closer to that.
Wow.
I don't really know how to. Well, I'm not really even interested right now in how to reach more globally. I feel I really need to explore this close to the field thing. Yeah. I hope it's somehow understandable.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Me too.
Actually. I'll chip in, Dragana, because it's just for me so interesting already what you said, you know, this transition from working like with people, you know, out there, this professional, and just working with who's around. And I really perceive also in my life so much more locality, or really, I mean, of course I do Zooms and I teach online, but there's something so precious in this local and really seeing, you know, who, I mean, I know who lives in my building. We are quite a community, and yet it became stronger. For example, knowing, you know, the people, or just knowing the people here from the studio where I'm now in. Like they're just these close by people that often we don't have time to spend time with. Right? And these are being closed in a family suddenly at home, right? Where everyone otherwise travels. And then I felt it's such a good time to really see where we physically are also.
No, for sure. I also appreciated a lot exactly this, because somehow I had the feeling because, you know, I was really traveling like crazy, maybe for 2 months before mid-March. And then somehow I felt it's as if my attention is a little bit, you know, like coming back to me, or instead of this whole attention where you constantly are in communication with other people who are very far, you know, and planning things, or so how suddenly, but the quality of it changed also. Not only that it became more as a snail who puts this, you know, like down a little bit, but but the quality of the vibration around, or like how what you see, or is better somehow, or not better, but it's more rooted, or more makes somehow more sense. I think it's just the problem with the countries like we are, like, I don't know, probably Poland or even Slovenia. Unfortunately, since March, we have this really extreme right-wing government, which is really dismantling everything that is public, like, because, you know, like public health, public blah, 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 public education, it's something very strong in this area. It's something really going against this idea that everything can be sold or bought. And now it's a really problem, because they are completely crazy. And I think if it would not be like this, probably I would even enjoy more, like being just making things smaller, you know. We also, because now they're really somehow not threatening, but really like giving this information that everything will be closed in a couple of days, or maybe 1 week. So we are trying with this experience that we had since March somehow not to let ourselves fear, or not to let ourselves to this kind of really like paralyzed, you know, situation, and also to organize something in the studio, because now we have access to 2 really beautiful studios, and somehow how to really reorganize so that you can also profit from being like small again, or so yeah, maybe we do something like this. It's just that this whole, you know, you cannot everybody was saying, no, yeah, you should work on yourself, you know, or let's work on ourselves. But I think the feeling here was really the feeling of a prison, not because of the lockdown, but because of this idea that somebody like a completely crazy person who is like this right-wing politician who got power in his hands. So we felt quite in some kind of prison, and of course if you're in prison you cannot work on yourself, like it's not going somehow together. Yeah, but when I was listening to both of you, and especially to you, Marine, because Anna I know since I think 12 years. Yeah. I mean, I lost a little bit the track. I haven't seen your work live since long time, but somehow I know that I know that I feel what is going on there. But I somehow had a feeling, we should also meet, you know, the 3 of us. I don't know. I had a very strong feeling we should meet and we should explore something together, because there is, yeah, I feel some, maybe it's this kind of, you know, illumination that I feel connected to everything. I feel connected. Everything comes back, you know, falls into place. But really, like, for real, I feel, because now, like today we were working and preparing something that we should perform on Saturday and Sunday, if we will be able.
With Snezhana?
With Jana, yeah.
Jana. Sorry, I speak wrong names.
No. She's Snezhana, but we call her Jana, so it's the same.
Okay, good.
The same person. Yeah, so I will not tell anyone.
Thank you. And anyone who wants can listen.
Those who can listen to this. Yeah, somehow, because we are working on something very, I felt somehow similar. I think things that you cannot name right away, you know, things that are in some kind of process, even though we are working on this. I mean, I'm in this since maybe 3.5 or 4 years, and other people, like some are like Tina Valentan, some others are even longer working with her. But still you feel that all these years don't mean anything, you know. You cannot, of course, you know what you want to work with, and you put something in the space and you put something in the air, but still I feel some things need really long time so that you are able to understand how this is some new form of life somehow, not only new form of art, but also new form of life, that maybe now for this moment is called art, or is manifested like art, or even maybe not art at all, but like, and I felt something when you were speaking about this, that there is something so beautiful when you cannot name, you know, when you cannot say, because I thought when I was listening to you, Anna, in the beginning, that somehow, art and this hyper production and what are we doing as artists and so on. I think in some sense, because of course, because of consumerism in the first place, and because of buying and selling, and these two being the two major relations, like forces in the world, that somehow slowly, without really wanting it or without even noticing it, that lifestyle somehow, or lifestyle in the sense of in the sense of lifestyle, somehow changed or came in the place of life, you know, so that life is completely squeezed out and the lifestyle is in. So it doesn't matter if you have this phone or if you are an artist or what kind of work you do, like as long as it falls into this very thin layer of lifestyle, you know. So for me it became very beautiful when I sense that there is something that you cannot name or tag or put into any kind of shelf and so on. So yeah, and while listening to you, Marine, I really thought maybe it would be very nice to meet also.
It would be very nice.
Well, maybe it's gonna happen.
Yeah, we will make it if we want. Yeah.
Yes, at least we're on the same continent. It already makes it easier, you know.
Rains or some.
But it's interesting what you say, Dragana, with the lifestyle, you know, because it's really, it's also this what I noticed. Okay. Well, yeah, the life, you know, the simple life, the regular life. Where's the value on this, you know? And on the art as a art of creating in every moment, maybe, or like being in the process and not really being in the product only. I really, yes, somehow the simplicity. I worked now in the studio with a view over the kindergarten. And I sometimes watch the kids playing because they, you know, now it got cold there. And the Divine Horseman.
Sorry, Anna. I just didn't
say, what is it?
No. You were speaking.
No, because of the, you know, you also were saying, Marina, about the play, you know, the game. And it's just insane to watch the kids play because they just do it, you know, and they just take something and they like obsess about it, you know, and then someone trips, falls down, and then everyone gathers. And it's for me, it's so fascinating to look at the attention and the joy and the creativity and the beauty that arise from being present to what is without trying to make it something, you know, just allowing it to happen. And yeah, I was thinking about it today.
I think we are always very quick to within another group that we are working in now, because we proposed, for example, in beginning of April, we thought, we have some, you know, we cannot always pretend that we have nothing. We also sometimes should say we have something, and what is it that we have, even if we are very poor, or even if we don't have, you know. So in comparison to some other, let's say, institutions or blah, 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 we also don't have, in fact, a lot of money, but somehow this feeling that you have something, that you have a festival, that you create, that you organize public space, that you organize, you know, I think it's a lot. And I said, okay, we should approach our other colleagues, you know, because you know Ljubljana, Anna, and you know these people, like somehow how to approach other people from other festivals or other people from other producers and so on, and how to tell them, look, we all have something, let's see what we have, and let's invest into long-term processes instead of thinking about our festival. And it's not only about festivals, so it's really about going back exactly to these local processes, maybe also international. You know, we felt that we are really put against the wall and told what not to do, but nobody told us what to do, you know, or what we can do, or what so I said maybe we should fight to get this space to fight for this space, to understand what to do and how to do by ourselves, so not to wait all the time that someone else does it. And even we were thinking, maybe with the money that we have, this was my kind of very vague approximation, but I said maybe with the money that we have, we can have 300 people working for 6 months for some kind of basic income, you know, like average salary or something. So why don't we also risk, you know, why don't we also say, because there was a lot of talk about this basic income in this time. I said, why don't we give ourselves what we are asking from the state? Why do we always behave like there is a master and we are in service of this master? Why don't we say we have already this money and we will give something to ourselves and to the wider scene, so we can also talk to sociologists, you know, philosophers, people who do IT, so that we can really create our own. I mean, okay, there is Zoom, there is Skype, blah blah, but we don't really know how to use this. You know, we don't really know how to combine physical presence and virtual presence. We don't know. Like I mean, there was a huge rejection towards this idea.
Like, what's this idea which you now cite?
Yeah, like unimaginable no, like a huge no to this idea, because yeah, exactly, because everybody felt they have some obligations towards the people who finance them and so on. Even though I think like 6 months is even not so long, like you could also do this for 5 years, or 10 years. But after 6 months, let's say that you could somehow say we have some new knowledge, or we have some new, exactly, these new forms of life or new forms of performance. We are a bit closer to them. We are not just sitting and waiting. So yeah, I feel I'm a bit getting sidetracked all the time in my thoughts. Yeah. Yeah, but I guess it also then has to do a lot with the function of art, Yeah, we were talking within another group about this, how we should start appreciating that an artist or whomever, but let's say if we talk about art, says, not I have a new project, but I have still an old project. Somehow I'm still working on this. Maybe it has to do with what you, Anna, were saying about digging. I'm still working on this, and this should be appreciated. Everybody who has new projects should be cancelled, and everybody who has old projects still after 6 years should be rewarded even more.
Yeah, because what is, like, I have a recent partner, and for example, he goes with me to all the shows. Now, if we go together. He's totally not from that field. He says he doesn't know how to do small talk at all. And he really just observes, and he really was like, after the last one, he was like, oh, I understand how it works. So you say hello, then you ask, what are you doing, or you're being asked, what are you doing now? What's the project you're working on? Where is it? Or someone tells you, oh, I heard you got the scholarship, or I heard you got this. And depending on how well you know the people, maybe the conversation goes a bit deeper or not. But this is very interesting, right? To define ourselves through that.
It's very nice that you're together, so you have this mirror and this.
Yeah, and being asked, for example, what is it that I do? Because he translated my text into German for this showing of the research. And then he was like, so what are you actually doing? Explain to me. And I said something, and he was like, because the research was done always to bring value to the community. And I'm paying from my taxes for your research. So what am I getting from that? And I didn't take it as an angry question or a question, but it's actually very interesting to think about it, because you talk about building new forms of knowledge, and I think it's very important. And it's very important also to understand how to share it and not to become the slave of a next festival or a next, but just to think, what could I give back, or what could I, not to make another product, another, I don't know, another model of a show. In my opinion, but I don't know how.
Of course. It's not so easy. Also, we had this as a kind of we can say guideline or a thought to follow when we did this Nomad Dance Institute in 2013, I think. So it was somehow really about these long-term processes that are bringing knowledge somehow. And one of the thoughts, very strong ones, was that we should bring back to the community. Of course, we have our own community first in mind. Like if we are in the whole region of Balkans, like maybe 100 people involved in this. But I think it's also even more important what we bring to the outside. But it's not so easy, Everybody is like fachidioti, like this. How do you say this in English?
Fachidioti? Fucking idiots?
No, not fucking idiot, no. No.
This is my translation from, I don't know, Serbian, Slovenian.
No, this is what we say in Serbian, but I thought because you now live in Germany that maybe this is from German language. It's like when you are really so specialized that you have no idea about anything else, and you just take care of really, really very small, but really so small, like even not, let's say, contemporary dance, but so.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not so easy somehow to bring back things to the community. And not to make it very forced, you know, not to make it like now we do it because we were told to do it. How to cultivate this this genuine wish that you or idea that you are part of something, you know, not you know. On the other hand, my very good friend, she's a researcher in pharmaceutical company, like one of the biggest ones in Slovenia, and she told me they are fully paid. They are very well paid, that they research like very, very small component of medicine, how it dissolves, for example, in the stomach, where in the stomach it dissolves, blah, blah, blah. And maybe this whole experiment lasts for 1 year, and maybe it's completely like 1 of 10 is successful and 9 of 10 are totally not successful, like globally. And nobody really asks, like nobody of, let's say, common people is asking them where, you know, I pay, because it's a private somehow, much more private logic somehow. And for me it was very, she told me this 10 years ago, and I was quite surprised to hear this, that it's so long, you know, like whole team of people is working for 1 year, and with this idea that it can lead nowhere somehow, or no, I mean not nowhere, but that this time it will not be successful.
Well, I can't. I agree that it would be revolutionary to be able just to imagine for me that I have the right to just do something really not interesting and risk doing this really not interesting thing. And if I have 90% of potentiality to come to this place, and it's okay, because it's true that there is my artistic life is really short, but I can already feel how you always have to give good justification of this weird choice of and of the small, really small, actually finance that you can get. And yeah, it would be nice just to, but it's what you said also before. How can we organize it? Well, not counting, not resting on public subvention or anything, but yeah, also changing the way our lifestyle so that it's possible to fail maybe more often.
But maybe instead of even thinking about failing, you know, because I have a feeling that this notion of failure or, you know, not making it comes from looking at in a very narrow direction, thinking that, for example, showing your work in Palais de Tokyo or, you know, Centre de Pompidou or whatever, Impulse Dance is a validation of your work, or gives the value, because this is how we perceive it, right? That it has value then. And yet, maybe the work that is not revolutionary, that is revolutionary, actually doesn't make it there. Because these festivals, these renowned places, they require a language that is always understandable, that things that can be named. And it's maybe, you know, and I'm not saying they are made with a quality quite often, you know, and yet quite often they are made in a quality that relies on known notions, on things that are known, that work, on tricks that can be applied, on somebody's 20 years of research that then is being taken because a theater director takes it and puts it on stage. And I mean, I'm very curious about that shift which happens between a product and a, you know, and a genuine research. Because I mean, I don't think they are, you know, they stand in opposition. And yet when you speak about the faith, like, it's just from what I think for myself, because I, you know, coming out of a school, I mean, already a while ago, but at that time there was also a notion of success which I had in my head, which was dancing for a particular dance company or for a particular known name. And actually now, these 12 years later, I'm actually quite happy that I'm going the way I'm going. Although I'm not, you know, I'm not opening programs of Centre Pompidou, and yet there is I see the value, I feel the value, and people, some people that, you know, feel the value in the work. And something that, yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's interesting. You know, it's just yet another attempt, no? It's like the system we live in is also an attempt. We thought it's the, you know, I mean, whatever, whether we criticize it or not, but every system in each country, it's just an approximation. It's just a bunch of people coming together, trying to make the best organization possible, according to the values they have. And no one really knows. It's like this. And they just try. Here is more radical right, you know, here's more left. And we see what comes out of it after time. Yeah. But you know, you brought the plant. I just think we should finish. But you know, I spend a lot of time with my plants these months. They really grew so much. I repotted them a couple of times because they went like completely. And it's, for me, this is fascinating actually, because you know, creativity, like they just grow. No, like they just grow. It just grows. This process just grows. This life just goes on. It's just, it changes forms.
And they don't ask for permission, or or they don't have to justify themselves, to justify their existence.
Well, it has nothing to do with what we were talking about. It's just what happened to me yesterday evening, and it was, I'm still very excited by it. So I just, and it's still, I mean, yesterday I how do you say, when you do like drawing with a model, can you say that in English? In French we say this. And I was the model, and I was I introduced the possibility for the people drawing to ask for pose. So basically I was moving and they would say pose, and then they would draw, and I could start moving again when I wanted. And then, so we did the first part like this, and then I wanted to try something else with the architecture. It was really that. So I decided my own pose. And I was really surprised at the end when we saw the, when we saw the drawings, like the difference, the huge difference there was between the drawing people made during the first session when they were asking for the pose, and the second ones. And there was a really amazing effect or link between the way people see, the way people look, and the way and the thing that they do and the traces that they leave. And there was there was something. I don't know if you've ever drawn something when it's in front of you. Usually it's just like it's there, so somehow you you're more concentrated in your drawing in what you want to do than in when it's in front of you, and which is also always moving, even if it's a stone, the light is moving, everything is moving. But and just to give the other people the right or the task to ask for poses, they were really looking at what was in front of them. And I just wanted to share, like, because it was really amazing. I did not expect it to be so huge, like the difference, how much the way we look at things changes the way we act on them or we act with them. And also, well, yeah, I won't go further. It has really nothing to do with what you just said. It's just it's in my mind, and yeah, just wanted to share it.
But what is very beautiful is when you have this experience, that you don't read about it or that somebody tells you about it or whatever, but this really sediments in the experience. For me, these moments are really the most beautiful.
Oh, because everything what's written comes from experience. And yet it's much nicer to discover it yourself, right?
Yeah.
You should say either, Marine, you should say when you should leave, or
yeah,
or
I think I should actually.
Okay.
I think it's time to say goodbye for me, at least.
No, I think it's good.
Yeah.
So I will stop the recording.
Yeah. Well,